Hello, welcome all. See if I can run the chat from here. Cool, I think that'll work. So start off with some spooky season tarot. Here to answer all your questions. I guess for anyone who's at home chilling on this Samhain evening. Let's see if the cards can tell you how my night has been. We'll see how accurate they get. Judgment. With 9 of Cups. Big judgment following the spiritual calling. That's why I'm here and not out and about or randomly ghost hunting, but rather here to provide readings. 9 of Cups at emotional fulfillment. So that seems about accurate for me. See if anyone actually joins. Who's bored on Samhain? I shouldn't say bored. That's the wrong idea. Who has a question? Because why not? Portal and they come. We had a total of, I think, 12 trick-or-treaters here, which was actually pretty good considering it is 19 degrees outside, or rapidly approaching. I think maybe that's just a low. It was in the 20s. Honestly, if I had little ones, I would have took them to the mall or the trunk or treat, something like that. This feeling the need to really sage behind the ears, Really freshen up them cards. Hello, random viewer. If you have a tarot question, let me know. Oh, goodbye, random viewer. I can sit, I can wait, and I can fast. Siddhartha. Drinking tea is good for me. I'm gonna grab a sweatshirt. Hang on. It's chilly up here. no one comes on for a question, maybe I'll hop over to the ghost hunting and see if we can't get them talking. Pull like a haunted dial down or something like that. Really have those cards nice and fresh for you. Maybe I should try later. I don't know. Just felt the calling for whoever needs a reading. Come on through. And if not, just kidding. That's kind of fun. It entertains me. Actually, that worked out pretty good. Caught smoking behind the show. Just waiting for people to get the alerts, come on in. Try to connect to some spirits. Spirits. It's a message. King of Wands. So it's an older gentleman. Orderly. Look at the kings as fathers or the grandfathers, you know, the King of Wands is the one with ambition, motivation, drive, entrepreneurial ability. Reversed could be a little hot-headed, impulsive. See what he has to say. What's your message from beyond the veil? Oh, now I got a queen. Queen of Pentacles. Queens are the mothers, grandmothers, the ones who care for, caretakers, nurturers. You know, with the pentacle on the earth plane, the Queen of Pentacles is gardening, growing, watering, tending to. Reversed, I'd say cut off, self-sacrificing. Or ignoring, not tending to. Alright, what's the message between the two? Oh, Ten of Swords. So we have these beings coming through. They're wanting to tell you, for some aspects, if someone's wondering, well, if there's a particular, I'd say, project, mental idea, focus, piece of ego work, the Ten of Swords is the transition between the 9, the completion, and the 1, the new idea, the new beginning, the new perspective. So it's rough. It's a transition period. Ten of Swords is a rough card. There's a silver lining. That's a real important part of the Ten of Swords to remember, the silver lining. This is a time when we let the dead bury the dead, so to speak. And that's a lot of letting go. And not necessarily emotionally. Letting go in the mind, in the thoughts. And when we say mind, we really mean what we choose to think about, what we visualize, the scripts that we run in our heads consistently, the visions that we have when we daydream or imagine or quote unquote think about something, right? So something old just wasn't working anymore. You already knew that. But these guys, this King of Wands, father, grandfather of that, the way I described it, or the Queen of Pentacles, mother, grandmother, they're coming through to tell you things are going to be okay. It's okay to let go. It's okay to let that old self go. It's okay to let go of what we thought made us happy, who we thought we were. Sometimes we end up clinging maybe a little too hard to things that have already run their course or cycle. Let's cross that Ten of Swords, shall we? Another queen. I got the King of Wands, Queen of Pentacles. Queen of Wands, she's very psychic. Got the black cat at her feet. Witchcraft energy, so to speak. It's a watery part of fire. It's how fire moves and engulfs. And if someone poured a cup of water on a large fire, it might put out that part, but it can continue to grow and combust, right? Because the water is that emotion, that energy, right? So she's the emotional aspect. King of Wands is the fiery part of fire. Fire, whoosh, like an explosion. I guess that'd be more like air. That'd be like more like the Knight of Wands would be the explosion, right? I guess the fiery part of fire, the hottest, purest flame, but maybe burns through the material the quickest. What's the Queen of Wands have to say? And she's got a message about work, telling you to, with the Eight of Pentacles, study, practice, keep going, keep grinding. She wants you to know the eight's almost to the nine, almost to the completion. It's kind of like something that's almost there. Huh, what's up, bro? How are you doing? Good to see you. If you have a question, let me know. Right now, I'm just reading the cards as they come up. I wouldn't say the Eight of Pentacles is about hustling. About dedication. And again, Pentacles on the earth plane, dedication or craft, doing the same. It's repetitive. But instead of doing the same thing again and again, which it might feel like we're doing, right? It's repetitive, but it keeps us getting more and more honed into our skill, honed into our craft, getting better and better, getting closer to that Nine of Pentacles, getting closer to that completion of that ownership. So Queen of Wands would really tell you, right, to use that watery part of fire and a little bit of that inner intuitive fire to keep going, right? Keep fueling that. Keep pushing yourself forward. Excellent, bro. How about you? If you have a question or anything like that, definitely let me know. I'm just pulling cards off the deck and reading them, but I will answer questions specifically. Thank you. Yes, I love this deck. The Rider-Waite deck, obviously. Pamela Coleman Smith. The art is super amazing, intuitive, etc. The Centennial deck has, my camera is really bad, but has a great colors, and the Borderless is, I don't know, this is my favorite. This is just my go-to reading deck, 100% of the time, for sure. And if I miss a comment or a question, feel free to ask it again. I don't know how to have these all showing up. They like flash quick and then they're gone. So, if I miss it, that's on me. All right, so we're talking about work, ambition, drive, motivation, right? Four of Cups came up next, right? Four of Cups is funny because prior even to me start earlier tonight when I was just reading cards for myself, right? It ends up feeling like a little bit of boredom, emotional boredom in a certain way, but that's not really the case. It's really paying attention here, So in the Three of Cups, which is that growth, that celebration, that outpouring of our emotional energy, right? The Four, that's stabilizing back out. I think that's why it feels like it's kind of got that little like doldrum or malaise side, is really because it's only because of the point of reference between the Four. And of course, then, the Four leads to the Five. That's going to be a change of emotion. So there's something before a change, right? And the advice is really encouraging you to, obviously sit in meditation. This cup is coming here kind of through the astral, bringing that bit of emotion. And with the Four, the emotional stability, right? Because all the Fours are governed by the Emperor. And that's all about boundaries and boundary setting. So this could also be a card talking about these cups of emotional boundary setting going on right now. That might not be as wild and carefree as the Three of Pentacles. But this is a one where, this is a good card where that, I don't want to say deeper emotion kind of energy kind of comes through, that deeper water, but definitely brought to you through the astral, whether it's through guides, God, your higher self, channeling, etc. Right? And the only way we're receptive to that is to intend to be receptive, to kind of sit and allow, right? And know that, and that's a beautiful part about tarot, is we get to know what's coming up before and after, right? Know that Five of Cups is coming, but the five always leads to the six, the harmony, right? But that five, that change, that can be challenging, right? So this is kind of gaining a new emotional cup, because some of these, right, on the five, I think 3 are spilt over, 2 are still behind. Maybe this one, and then the next one and the 5 will be behind. The things that, bring us that emotional satisfaction always change, right? As we change and grow as beings. And what brought us that always will, metamorphosize into something new or different. And I think that's really the important of the 5. But sometimes that really feels like a sadness, a loss, right? It's something I've even been kind of challenged with lately. Recognizing what parts we can emotionally let go of. And I always like this one too, just where he's kind of sitting by the tree, nature. Like right now, where I'm at, way too cold to be in nature. It's like 19 degrees outside or something like that. It's ridiculous. But that's what I'd say about the 4. Let's see what's up next. Oh, here we go. Got some snow on. Yeah, we have some snow on the ground. Not too much. It didn't stop the trick-or-treaters, so I was happy about that. Duluth, Minnesota. And it is chilly. Hailing from Duluth. Yeah, definitely, bro. Anytime. Yeah, I'm just kind of channeling messages here. Figure whatever comes up, whatever needs it. So I'll go through the whole deck. I'm not really too worried about it even. Well, I probably won't end up going through the whole deck, but you get what I'm saying. So definitely an informal scenario. Could totally address personal questions, but I don't know. I was in the mood. Everyone's all about, for the spooky season, this, the veil thin, ghosts and goblins and the whatnot. And that's not really the energy that I feel. I feel, a connection, a peace. That it's not an aggravating or heightening energy, kind of like a full moon. Feels a little bit more like that new moon energy. Yeah, wholesome vibe, 100%. Yeah, definitely. That's how I've been feeling tonight. Wholesome vibe. So I'm going to keep going. Let's see what else we can pull up here. Star card. This one's really beautiful. Star represents Aquarians, which is like those humanitarian, those forward thinkers. Not necessarily thinking about ourselves, and because it's a major arcana, the world as a whole. And right now, the star represents a lot of healing. And usually it involves emotional healing, where, even though Aquarius is the air sign, it's the water bearer, right? So going back, to those changes on the airplane, the plane of air, I should say, not the airplane, right? She has one knee on the ground, so it's here in grounding, but she's able to dip into that wellspring of emotion, right? And bring that. And I feel like this is actually kind of maybe a really powerful card. 70 sounds awesome right now, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like this is a powerful card for the world right now, for healing, and it also maybe comes in alignment with all these other ones that we've pulled here. You know, we have the Ten of Swords, which is that completion part and being able to really let go of whatever, you know, we know is done. That Eight of Pentacles, that grinding, that moving forward, that Four of Cups, waiting to be inspired, opening ourselves to inspiration, right? And the Star card, she's that first major arcana that we've had that trumps all those things, right? So, you know, when the Star card shows up, it's really about tuning in. So, not just through when our meditations, when we're looking at this, sitting here being receptive, this is literally tuning into your star family. The 7 stars represent the 7 sisters, you know, the constellation of Sirius. That's the star of Sirius, which is the binary star. Yes, always reversals. Well, no, actually, that's a really great question. It really depends to me on the client or the person that I'm reading for. And also, I would say, how do I best describe it? The energetic situation. So, for instance, I was doing a reading this last weekend and I saw the message in the cards, and the way a couple that came up reversed, it wouldn't have been beneficial to read them as reversed and talk about that because of the timing, the situation, the simplicity of the reading. The message was inherent in both. And so that one I kind of just turned them around. The other time I don't really worry about reading or reversals is if I'm doing like a large spread, like a Celtic cross, and I'm dealing them all 10, and all 10 or so come up reversals or reversed. To me, that's just a simple matter of I was holding the deck one way or the other. And I don't think that's necessarily fair to a client to be like, oh, your whole reading is reversed. Even though that might be what they need to have, usually I can include those messages about whether it's a dark side or a shadow self or, you know, a particular reflection. I can include that in the upright meaning. But usually, yes, as a general rule, I do read reversals. I found that reversals to me, if something is reversed, you almost have to use your intuition to really ascertain. Reversals to me are the most fascinating because I've seen them come up in readings and mean so many different things. I should say not mean, but like placehold so many different things. So for instance, if a card is reversed, let's go. It could mean the opposite energy. Let's go back to the Eight of Pentacles, right? Eight of Pentacles reversed, the opposite energy could be not, you know, what's going on, not focusing on these things, not putting our energy towards that. Yeah, well, like what the heck's going on, right? No, so it could be that sometimes it's a delay where it's the exact same meaning, but it's like a little bit slower. Sometimes there's a blockage to that energy, right? Where are we allowing ourselves to, let's say, if the Four Cups reverse, are we allowing ourselves to connect or be emotionally inspired that way? Are we taking the time to sit there? So like sometimes it's a blockage. Sometimes when it's a reversal, I see it as a transition. It's like in between. It's literally in between the in-between, like in between the 4 and the 5. Or it could be the leggy way. It could be in between the 3 and the 4. Not quite there yet. Sometimes it, you know, it had the traditional reversal meetings totally apply, where it's like, I don't want to say a negative aspect, but more like that shadow side aspect, or something is off balance there. That's kind of how I look at the reversals. This one came up right at the beginning of the stream for me when I asked how my night was going. Judgment. Elemental dignities. As far as the Golden Dawn systems, I definitely incorporate the elemental dignities. What I kind of do for that isn't so you know, if I was going to be doing something where I was really focusing on that, I would really stick to their, you know, they had the 3-card reading system where you can really look and you can gain a lot of information out of that. What I tend to do is talk about more how the elements interact, and then also see. So first of all, see like what comes up a lot. If there's a ton of fire in a reading, already that tells me, hey, that's going on. But also then would suggest, bringing. I would tell the client right away, you got to bring a lot more water to this situation, right? Just to balance that out right away. If it's really one element heavy, because or if there's a ton of water and a little bit of fire, all that's going to drown that out, right? So I can already kind of talk about those aspects. I guess I tend to focus more on how the elements themselves may be interacting within the reading, if that makes sense. Also, then with the majors, you can look at like sometimes with the planets, like which elements are closer and more represent to, because like judgment, the element of fire. So there's been a lot of fire in the Samhain reading tonight already, because both the king and queen of wands, right? So they're kind of governed by that judgment, that fire there. But there's also been earth, and there's also been a little bit of water and air. So it's been all in all kind of a relatively balanced deck. But the element, like, I think it's beneficial to clients, especially when you want to talk about like elemental magic with them, right? Because that to me is real power in the magic of the tarot. We can do predictive readings, all day long, and someone can be like, oh my God, that's exactly right, blah, 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 blah. But if it's nothing applicable for them, if they aren't going to or can't do something with it, then it's just entertainment, which I'm also all about. Don't get me wrong. Like, everyone comes to things on their own, but for me personally, on the soul level or spiritually, like, I like to do those readings where it's like, really confirmational for someone, or really brings in something that they can like focus on and use. And right, so if there was, like, let's say if in the answer, a lot of water and a little fire, that might be a really good thing. Like they might be really focused on that, but that also might be squashing where their motivation is trying to get to, and it might be working against them. So I would talk about then, from more of the shamanic side, how the elements, interact. Like, so for instance, let's just use the water and the fire analogy, right? Combined perfectly just by looking at the symbols of, and so I guess how I break down for the elements for people to understand is I use the symbols in our daily world, right? And even the symbols of like humankind, like, so especially when we're talking about like the shamanic aspects of the elemental energies. So for instance, like with the fire and the water, like that brings us at the perfect balance great power. You can use the fire to boil the water. And what does boiling water bring us, right? It brings us cauterizing wounds. It sterilizes water where we can drink it. It allows us to cook food, the soup, feed people. If there's not enough fire underneath that water, what happens? People could get sick. The water is not going to become disinfected, right? It's a little toxic. If there's too much fire, what happens? The water evaporates. It bubbles out of the kettle, and then it loses its efficiency. It's almost like wasted. The fire can kind of burn it out. I missed that last comment. If that was, you want to say that again? It's hard for me to see it on this phone. Yeah, so it's all about, the balance, and then seeing where something's off balance. We can call in these other elements, usually just by intending it, by awareness. Sometimes I recommend like little rituals or something for calling in fire. You could light a candle or meditate on a card or this or that, but usually just kind of using the associations in our life. Having someone bring that awareness to a situation, or an awareness to future situations as they're moving through, is enough to kind of call in and balance and work with those energies. So the elemental dignities is cool, but I do take more shamanic parts. Yes, yes. Encouraging the client to bring balance, right? Especially around the elements. So that's usually where I tend to incorporate them mostly into the readings. with other people. That's cool. The world. Remember how we just talked about, now is a beautiful time for people who, are in tune. I don't want to say in tune, that sounds judgmental, but using that astral power, I said bringing healing to the world, like literally bringing that healing, that humanitarian healing, that energy, connecting that to the world. I feel like the world needs it now more than ever. And when I say the world, I mean the globe. There are people suffering hard here, across the entire globe, everywhere. But the world's also a portal. It's that closure. Yeah, definitely sharing love. Definitely sharing love. And, hopefully, it's as a stepping into the new earth, right? And I feel like a lot of maybe what's going on is just that it's almost like a cellular dividing process. I don't know how or why intuitively it feels like that, but it's interesting, it's strange, and I don't want to encourage anyone to live in a fear-based reality, but the world needs a lot of healing right now. And what can we really do? I feel like that star card is a really good one. We can connect, we can pray and help birth a new world, right? Also, if I was reading this just for someone as some of those messages, star card's all about having hope. So I would just read this simply as have hope, because things will get better. This whole new era, because it's major arcana, right? Big life pattern energy, leaving something major behind, spiritually advancing in your own soul. Like lessons, this gets all back to it. Lessons have been learned. The hard work has been put in, kind of where we're sitting right now. We have the judgment, star, and world, and that's really beautiful. Those cards go together perfectly, because it's like we're called, and now is the time to really step into, I would say, I don't want to say our highest spiritual self, that sounds so cliche, maybe our next iteration of our spiritual self, right? To really be able to embody that to the best as we can. And it's challenging, and it's going to be challenging, because after this world card, inherent in the end is the zero in the beginning, right? The alpha and the omega, the all, and it's a unification too. Yes, definitely holding space, bro. Definitely holding space. Like, that was my intention. That's definitely my intention. I don't know. A lot of people I know have been going through it. I can say that too. A lot of people that I know personally have been going through it. They've been feeling it. They've been going through it. And, it's easy to get caught in the self-pity of the Ten of Swords. I do it. Everyone does it. It's a, yes, world dancer. That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's part of like what's left behind too. When they say this is, the Ten of Swords, traditionally can represent ego, a piece of ego death in the tarot, right? To me, that's always kind of where it is. Like, we can languish in this state as long as we choose, and then that self-pity kind of just leads to self-indulgence in that self-pity, right? So there has to be that closure, right? There has to be that end in order to progress and move forward. And right, exactly, dance through it. What is dancing? Like, usually, unless you're a professional dancer, usually dancing is fun, it's free, it's expressive, it's, feels good to move our bodies. Dancing with someone, dancing with a group of people. Me personally, I'm a little bit more of an autistic weirdo, so I really like dancing at festivals, just kind of doing my own thing out in a group of other weird little alien beings doing their own thing, right? But right, we dance through this movement. Now is not the time for like heavy steps, energetically speaking. Yeah, I think that is 100% true. That unwillingness to like let go of ego, it clings, and people cling to it. And you a person or a being has to be, they have to want to, they have to want that letting go ascension process. And, as whether you want to call, right. No, it 1,000%. It is right, bro. It's 1,000% tied into that. 1,000%. What's going on right now in the Middle East, and there's a lot of loops too. It's almost like it's all without getting politically involved, because there's domino effects of these politics that have gone on since the 1980s, and it's literally insane. Energetically, what I see is it's very similar to me. It seems like when someone, if a child is whether it's physically or in other ways abused, like really, really bad, there's a very high propensity for them to repeat that trauma loop, right? And it's interesting to see a whole area of individuals, culture, nationalism, this egoic identity attached to it, almost repeating trauma loops. And, I wish I could just say, oh yeah, break these loops. But just the same as if you're working with a person who is a trauma survivor, I don't know if that's the right answer. Yes, getting out of that loop, and I feel like that's why that world card is so cool, because it's like you're not in the loop, you're going through it. And I'm praying that that's what the progression brings. I think a lot of people are praying that right now. Like, tragedy is insane, and my heart goes out to everyone involved and everyone whose government is not acting on their own accord, or the accord of the peoples. I mean, prayer for peace. A prayer that we can let go. A prayer that governments and leaders can let go and stop creating death and toxicity, stop poisoning people, stop killing. Heavy stuff, but prayer for peace. King of Swords. Whoa, talking about ego. This is one of the cards that represents a well-established ego to me, for sure. That ties in. But it's also a balanced ego. It's not an unbalanced ego. Knight of Swords, I feel, is more of that one-sidedness, that reactionary ego, right? So even if they can't let go of their ego, maybe right now part of that prayer is at least bringing in the balance. It's interesting too, as I've been pulling out all the cards, looking at spirits or spirit messages from across the veil. The King of Swords is the wise grandfather, right? The one that we can consult, the one who sees both sides but is stable in the thinking, makes the fair judgments. Change is slow. Growth is slow. Everything happens on its own accord. This is actually one of my favorite cards in the deck, because I am an Earth for sure. But I always ask clients, what is he growing? Yep, it's definitely the 7. And some people see this card as, like having to wait. And sometimes there's a frustration in waiting. We can't rush nature. We can't rush these processes, right? I also see it as trimming the parts on the earth plane that are unnecessary towards that growth, right? Because just like in any type of gardening, um, cutting off smaller branches or smaller fruits will push more growth into the larger fruits, right? And then fighting for decades is literally dumb. Next generations. I definitely think we have like super low appetite. And with the amount of technology that we have right now, there has to be more civilized ways to open to have forums and discussions and to come to things that aren't missiles and bombs. And the amount of our as citizens tax monies that go to create and support these exact missiles and bombs that are being distributed. um, it reminds me a lot of that Nicolas Cage movie Lord of War. Right. We have a lot of right. This whole new generation of well, I mean 25s, 30s, right? New access to information, even young, even on the younger side, all through our 30s, 40s, and even down. Like so much information has brought different perspectives, and I also think it's really works to counterbalance propaganda. Now, granted, that there's always going to be the population that's MK ultra sized. It's like that meme I saw where it says the reason you don't think you've been lied to and brainwashed is because you've been lied to and brainwashed. Um, so that just exists. That's what is, and we keep information spreading and encouraging people, to use different perspectives, to look at fair perspectives, to not use overreactionary perspectives. That's nothing that I've gotten in this reading here is overreactionary. And it's going to take time, right? With that 7, it's going to take time to see that change. Not because we can't quantumly jump just into this brand new world, right? But because the earth runs on its cycles, right? And that's why I'm here sitting with you on Samhain, because it's part of the cycle. Access to information, yes, 100%. And there's a listening to people, not professors even or leaders, civilians, people that have been able to now kind of get on, not on the news, but on, talking forums, podcasts, on both sides of the conflict. This is not something that the people really want. There are some, and those are being, fed and distorted and conflagerized, and and then here we are, we get these filtered versions. Completely different topic, but I can't remember. There was one journalist who said that about 3% of any article that you'll read is factually accurate, and to me that's very low. The rest is, I don't know if I don't have no backing for that particular statistic, but it's something that I always keep in my mind, that what we're getting is definitely, even still where we think it's free information, it's still filtered information. And there's a lot of like the global manipulation and all these agendas going on now. And at least we have the ability, we as a people, we as these, the new generations coming up, we as the older generations who have experienced change that can work together, we're seeing through it. We're not as easily moved by light is good, right? Everything comes to light, yes. Then that's part of that natural process too, right? And that's why we have these symbols on this, like, so we understand the rules of this quantum matrix, right? The symbols of nature represent the workings of the reality, the yin and the yang, the sun and the moon, like, it goes dark and then comes light. And what is light? Exposure, truth, knowledge, also information. And as things come out more and more into the light, that will definitely guide policy and decision making. And I think it really just speaks even larger. Nice. Right. Verification. I think it speaks to a larger and larger just change or process, that right now we live in a world where, or let's even just focus on our country right now, there isn't, right, there isn't opposition to war in our governmental party right now. Both supposedly oppositional parties that keep in checks and balances are straight for, and 500 some military contractors over the past 10 or 20 years have now become down to like 50 or down to like 5. I don't know. It's crazy, right? They've consolidated, and there's a lot of money being made, right? Yeah, and at what point, I don't know. Do we, it doesn't really none of this I think represents a large majority of the people. Maybe it does. Maybe I'm the one that's way out of touch and wackadoodle, and I'm in an echo chamber with the people that I talk to or spend time with, or frequency wise, I see all sides, and maybe there really is that large clamoring for what's going on right now, but that's not what I see. That's not what I hear. You know, right? And I think that even when you, Devin, even when you talk about like feeling it, like we feel it on the astral, we feel it on the emotional, right? There's definitely like, I don't want to use a Star Wars term, disturbance in the force, but like I don't even think someone needs to be that energy sensitive to be picking up on that right now. It's strong. These waves are out there. They're crashing as things are brewing. It's really interesting. Pray for peace. Pray for peace. Six of Swords. If we can get past the conflict of the Five of Swords, right, we can move on to something. The six is always the harmony. Star Trek. Heck yeah. Right. We need to be able to move on. What did Crowley call this one? It wasn't science. Might have been science. Temperance was art. This card might have been science. I'm not sure. But we need to be able to move on. We need to be able to progress. What is the Six of Swords? It's taking what's important with us, which ideologies work, these things now, which perspectives are beneficial, and then we're moving forward, right? So moving out of the choppy waters, and it's kind of hard to see on the card. There's choppy waters that we're moving away from. But we have to be able to steer the boat. We need direction, right? Even whether, and that's personal direction, spiritual direction, leadership direction in our communities, direction by our leaders right now, not just money making war puppets, contractual war puppets. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I think it's possible, and if we want to look at these ones together, this last little series, if we're looking at like the elemental dignities, air, earth, right? And technically these ones are opposite, so there's a lot of air there, right? A lot of thought. It's conflicting. We're not quite getting to see it manifested yet. And that manifestation power is slow. Change is slow on this matrix. It is slow. That's the nature of the nature. It runs on its own timelines and its own cycles and its own designs. Also, I think it's interesting if you're looking at like the Kabbalistically, the concept premise of the world. Jesus, right. Yes, exactly. And that That reminds me also, GHL of, I think it was probably one of my favorite sci-fi stories. It was a Ray Bradbury story called I think it's called the Toynbee Convector. I think that's the name of it, something like that. But it was basically, we're hoping, right? We're trying to get people to think along those lines, right? I think the premise of this Ray Bradbury story was that a guy had come. It had like shocked everyone, this and that. He showed up saying he was from the future, and he had all these like, I don't know, the videos, things of how everything was beautiful and harmonious, and all the environment was clean and everything was peaceful and this and that. And the whole premise of the story was, right, they saw all this and then they got to this spot, and now they finally caught up to the timeline where he said, he was from, or like where he's going to leave from, and they get there and he's not there. This guy had just shot all this in his studio. He had kind of made this story up, but it was because there was that like clear story, that guide, that so it became a self-fulfilling prophecy, but one of positivity and power, because the people saw in the future that everything was clean. Right, and I'm really hoping, that's one thing that I've really been talking about, is that I pray and hope that that will be the outcome of where we're at right now, and not ending up in a world. Well, I mean, technically, I guess it's already a proxy World War III, but not starting this domino effect of ego, because everything's been moving around and it's like brewing up towards that. And it's like we need that clear vision to be able to guide us and to move away. I won't say from, but towards. Yeah, exactly. Right. And that actually gets back to like when we're just talking about like the elements in tarot. Right. No, you can't fight fire with fire. Throwing more fire on the fire is just going to not only increase the fire, but burn everything up twice as quick. You're going to burn up you're going to burn up the resources twice as quick. Right. The love is like the water, and I think that's why, not to get too preachy on anyone, but that's why the biblical reference are there, where Jesus says, my cup runneth over, right? And it was the symbolism of the grail, the cup, the drinking in, the cooling, the pouring out. Even on the Rider Waite, for the Ace of Cups, the cup with the dove of peace, and she's got the little communion thing. Yes, Jesus is legit. Right, we're moving towards something, right? Eight of Swords. This reminds me of what JHS we were just saying, though, about like being bound up in the ego perspectives, right? Blinded. And it's like a self-blinded. There's some people who literally don't want to see, like, all the person has to do in the Eight of Swords is slip out, take the blindfold off, right? It's where we imprison and entrap ourselves. On the Ace of Cups cup? Let's see what it is. I couldn't even tell you. It's a W. My guess is it's the upside down mem. M-E-M would be the Hebrew word for water. It's also the sign of Scorpio. So mem is the Hebrew name, or the letter associated usually with the death card, the 13. But that would be my guess, thinking about Pamela Coleman Smith's art and how she would incorporate it. I was also going to say, looking at it upside down, W for water, right? What's in the cup? Water. Yeah, and there's a little bird, the dove of peace, and he's got the quadrantary cross, and it's a little communion wafer, and he's dipping it in. This is one of those cards. So talking about reversals, I don't think for Ace of Cups, there, to me, okay, sometimes I guess maybe if it was reversed, you could say, oh, you're pouring your cup out and you're wasting it. But if you, even in the design, like then that makes the water like kind of like almost like flowing upward. None of it really pours out, and almost like sets the dove free. This is one of those cards where when it's reversed means almost to me the same as it is upright. I mean, it is a W, so it makes perfect sense. I don't think there's never, to me, I've never seen a real negative interpretation for the Ace of Cups reversed. That would be, maybe one of those things on like a timeline thing, like, oh, it's not quite there yet, or oh, maybe you've just had that realization, or that ace is coming. But because the ace is the root of the element, so whenever the aces show up, a lot of tarot readers like to say, oh, that means, for the Ace of Pentacles, new job, new this, or the cups, new love, or new inspiration, or like healing. Yeah, it does after some of these iterations down the tree of life, right? The aces are the zeros, they're the roots. They're the ones associated with the first Sephira, right? The unknowable, the one that's across the veil, the Ein Sof. Sof? That unformed from God, right? So as are all the roots of the trees where the elements start and the energies like come from. So right, we can say that these new experiences or these new things are coming because that's perfect sense. But I always try to get clients to tap into that root energy, more that unbounded and unformed energy. Yes, it's, yep, I think it's with the A, the Ein Sof. Yeah. My Kabbalah is a little rusty, to be quite honest. But yeah, tapping into the root of that and calling it. So like usually when on my tarot altar, or if I were to tell a client to meditate on something, aces are a really good one to meditate on. I would also say if anyone was using, tarot for ritual magic, for something they wanted to manifest, finding an ace in a deck and putting it over another one of the cards is a really amazing way to like just quantumly or energetically change a tarot reading. So like for instance, I'm just going to make this up here. If we go back ways away, or I have like the Four of Cups, and let's pull, for example, Four of Cups and the Eight of Pentacles, where this one might, if this were to come up for a client, might look like, oh, you're waiting for that inspiration to do this, or you're waiting for that emotional fulfillment piece to like figure that out. If they were like, asking about a job or like a new job, and like, so then I can literally go through the deck, take the ace in front of them here, and we put it on, I'll just put it on top, cover it up. Now we're calling in that energy. What does that reading look like, right? We can tap into that to get to that and to assist in that. And now this ace also becomes the cup that's coming, right? So I guess that's how I would use the aces as root element for the elements, especially when you're talking about like the elemental dignities or the elemental magic aspect piece. I missed all that. I wasn't fast enough. I'm starting to get just sweepy. I'll pull some more cards and just chat about them, see what else comes up. This has been a pretty powerful night. Thank you guys for joining me. It definitely a soul vibration, and much love. Page of Pentacles. Let's see what we got here. I knew that one would be coming up soon. Five of Cups, right? That emotional change. And this might be get down to some of the stuff we're talking about too. That inexperience, that naivety. But it's also an impulse to follow or find something new, to find that little fascination with the earth. Let's see what that Five of Cups. I like this. We got another Trump here, the Magician, right? And that's exactly what to me, the magician, um, it has its own traditional meanings, but right with the it's interesting. It's the infinity, and also it's hard to see, but he's got the serpent on the belt, and actually the serpent cult, that was that's the Gnostic cult, the first and only true followers of Christ in that 30 some AD afterwards, right? And of course, it's the above and channeling to the below. And how do we do that? It's through the elements of the earth that we're talking about, but the root elements, right? And, and through the root elements, as we kind of tap into them, I think we really need to focus on being able to bring those down, to know our power, even as we're going about, in our daily meditations, as we're walking through our daily society, the people that we talk to, the people that we're, at work with, helping, the people that we can. Item he's holding in his hand. I forget. It's another Hebrew thing. I don't think it's one of the scrolls. It's a religious tool. I can't remember exactly what the item is he's holding in his hand. A lot of people say it's like a wand or baton, but that's not quite it. It does have a name. I don't remember what it is, but I think it's for religious ceremony. 10, 11, yeah. I think we need to just, tie into that, with that world card, and then, coming through that portal. Magician, I would really see that as space holding in a lot of ways, right? Energetic space holding, auric space holding, astral space holding. Because we're not just channeling down, right? But we're uploading up as well, and having that cross between, being able to connect. If anyone does any like chakra work meditation, our root and our crown, connecting into the earth and to that, that star family, our stars up above, and being able to bring it all down. It's definitely unification. So I feel like, there are people that are going to be feeling that unification process, and that balancing. But it's not a balancing sideways like this or that, right? It's a balancing, I want to say, from up and down, and also kind of through these planes of existence, from the highest down to the lowest, and from the lowest up to the highest here. And maybe, I would love to set the intention, and maybe, hopefully no more can die, and that this part of what's happening now is just this process of, rebalancing on earth, and maybe it will bring us to a place of where people have healthy boundaries and healthy borders, and coexisting and working together towards this is growing out of nowhere, right? Just kind of encased in our matrix, our earth matrix, right? And what do we got? We've got these tools. That's about all we got. And then it grows and does, right? The whole thing is on this like recycle thing, but I think we can't deny our psychic power to, influence, because we are magical. And I will say exactly specifically, everyone watching this right now with me is super magical, because it's a frequency and a vibe. And see the reflection of your magic, right now in your hearts, and like own that magic. I think that's like super important, because didn't, as I even before, while I was contemplating even turning on the camera and going live, and setting the intention for the reading, did a lot of saging space. It's a sensitive net, like you said, the energy, the veil is thin, but that means that like the membrane is thin. That means what we have inside ourselves we can put out. And I think we can really put out a lot of healing and a lot of growth, and bring about a lot of change also. So my blessings to all three of you and everyone here is amazing. And thank you for being with me on this tarot journey tonight. And I had a really amazing experience and great conversation and wonderful intentions. Likewise, bro, it's all reflections. It's definitely a thin veil. And let's use that to our advantage. 1111111. I just saw it go across. Yeah, we can use that thin veil to our advantage. And not the ego advantage, right? That's that old part of Ten of Swords and lost in that like self-indulging in that self-pity, but rather that moving forward, really stepping into our power, stepping through that world card, because the world needs us now more than ever. So blessings.